to try and support that. I think that when we have been thinking about shelters and
Conrad,
and workers in the shelters,
is the news on in Ottawa right now?
Preventing it from getting into that environment, and so we're taking measures around that.
You should listen to the news in Ottawa because what's his name's coming on TV.
It's a challenging thing. The other part of it, though, that we have to remember,
Mr. Trudeau.
Shelters are in many cases a person's only
saying
home.
about what's going to be happening.
So we need to make provisions so that we can support people and do it in the safest way possible. But it is, as you indicate, it's a challenge, and especially in some of the larger shelters. I know there's many different ways that communities are looking at this. Some of it is moving people into smaller settings so that there's not as much people in a greater number of smaller settings. And here in Victoria, they're looking at some of those options as well.
Gail Johnson, Yahoo News. Go ahead, Gail.
Thank you. Dr. Henry, my question pertains to babies, so children under 1 year of age. We're hearing occasional stories of babies either being tested for or diagnosed with novel coronavirus. In one case out of the UK, apparently the baby's mother and even care provider initially passed off the fever as being caused by teething. What should a parent or guardian be looking for, and when should they have their baby assessed?
Yeah, good question. As you know, most young children seem to be less affected by this, but there have been case reports, as you say, very small numbers of infants who've been affected by COVID-19, and some of them severely affected. So I think the same thing applies if you have concerns about your child, to make sure that you connect with your care provider and ask about the issues, particularly if you have had contact with somebody or have been in an environment where COVID-19, and I say that because we have now several public places where we know there's potential exposures. So it's really challenging, and it is a discussion that needs to be between your care provider and yourself, and then in public health we can facilitate testing if it's needed.
Okay, next up we have Victor Kaiser, Radio Kamloops.
You there?
Victor? Okay, we're going to move on to Richard Zussman, Global News.
One of the questions that we've received, Dr. Henry, or potentially for Minister Dix, is around custody battles and what the recommendations are for people who may be have children that go in between parents' homes, and whether that's recommended. And considering the courts aren't open, how is there guidance on doing that if there is a potentially concern from one parent or the other that the home isn't safe in terms of protecting from COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a very challenging question, and it's not one that I can give individual advice on, although the courts may be closed. There are ways of
don't fall asleep there, Conrad.
The legal system to address your own particular individual situation, and really that's the advice that I have to give. There's no way I can say blanket it should be one or the other. We do want to try and minimize exposure, so it has a lot to do with how you can effectively care for children in those environments, and every situation is very different. So I know my colleague in Quebec said that they should stay with the strictest parent, but I'm not sure it's that simple. I think there is a lot of things in family dynamics that need to be worked out, and my advice to people is to try and work it out in a way that makes the best sense for the children.
Next question comes from Amy Smart from the Canadian Press. Go ahead.
Hi there. If we do reach our capacity to treat COVID-19 cases, I know some countries have implemented rules against treating people of a certain age, for example. Others are leaving those determinations up to doctors. How do doctors in BC make those decisions, and is there a framework in place to support them?
Yes, there absolutely is. This is something that is near and dear to my heart for a long time. Looking at what happened during the SARS outbreak and other things. So an ethical framework about how we approach these questions, these incredibly important questions, is something that we developed in H1N1. We've refined it during the Ebola crisis in 2014, And we've used that background with a very strong group of clinical ethicists, not clinical ethicists in our province.
Is that good, we?
Over many years, and
good boy.
A really strong group of ethicists in this province who have assisted us on this. And since January, when this first started,
it is for
tasked
the
them with looking at developing the framework for that we can use and adapting the framework for COVID-19,
making
and
his way
then
to the
addressing
ring,
some very
representing
specific
the
questions. One of those is around
from Calgary, Alberta,
equipment,
Canada,
and the other
weighing
one
in
is around
at 220 pounds,
ventilating
the Spider,
outlaw, who will get scarce treatment. It's that.
Guys,
yo, Conrad.
Crowned a new champion here tonight.
Yo.
The title's been vacant for long enough. One of these
Yo.
superstars will be going home tonight as the new champion.
Conrad.
It does have a whole protocol for how we will manage this so that no any single individual physician or clinician will have to make that decision on their own. There is a system that is being set up for clinical decision-making, ethical decision-making in each hospital that's involved, and also a prevention strategy, a provincial already.
I'd say that he's among the most prideful superstars on the roster today.
Well, when you accomplish what he's been able to accomplish, Michael, you have every right to be proud of yourself.
We have people at the provincial level that include myself and critical care lead, nursing lead, who will be imposing, if we need to, the framework, and it will be under the specific circumstances, and it is all laid out, the considerations that we have, the ethical principles that underlie the decisions that will be made. So it is, and I want to reassure my colleagues, because this is something we worry a lot about in healthcare, is having to.
And his opponent from New York, weighing in at 130 pounds, the Assassin.
It's a big fight field here tonight as the title is on the line.
And title matches like this have a way of getting your blood flowing, unlike...
Dr. Henry, I'm sorry to think where you doesn't care about the safe supply, like when that's going to happen and how that's going to be delivered to people.
So this is a guideline for providers, so physicians and clinicians who are supporting people who are living with
addictions. Lots of competitors in the back dream for a shot at this title.
To support them and how to make those decisions. So, for example, I know there's a number of providers that are working in the downtown east side, and it's supporting them and being able to support
match here. In my opinion, this championship could main event any show, any place, any time.
Bold declaration, Byron, but given the competitors vying for the title tonight, I'd be inclined to look at this. And he misses the mark.
Talk about a rough landing.
It's been distributed, and I think you'll expect something soon, Nick, that will come.
Heavy duty right hand.
Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, and
he's taking it to the outside.
And I think, as far as I understand it, you're just seeing it this afternoon.
And we have time for one more question. Devin Fidel, Black Press, go ahead.
Hi there. I heard earlier this week that health officials in the UK announced that 3.5 million antibody tests have been ordered. Can you say when or if these antibody tests could come to the province?
Jarring headbutt.
The end is looming now. He might be the cell's next victim.
There is still a lot of
impact.
There's a lot of research going on about an antibody test, and what an antibody test lets you do is determine who was infected. So right now, the test that we have that is being used around the world to detect cases is one that relies on detecting the RNA of the virus in your saliva in particular, and other body fluids. And that one tells us the virus is present. So what an antibody test does is it lets me know 1 week or 2 weeks later if I had the infection. It's a measure of your body's response to the virus. So when I'm infected with the virus, my immune system develops antibodies to try and bind to that virus.
Okay, hold on.
And create damage to my cells. But so an antibody test is not helpful in diagnosing me right now.
Somebody hurry up and call a medic.
It is helpful in helping us understand where in our community people have already had this infection. So we are absolutely looking for an antibody test. There's been a number that are still experimental.
Bringing it back between the ropes.
I think it was Iceland or Copenhagen who's looking at doing some broad antibody testing as well. We have a research program that we already started with the BC CDC to
very effective.
bits of seals of blood that people have given to the lab for a whole bunch of laboratory tests, and we can take that anonymized serum, and we have it as a baseline, and then we can do testing in 3 months, 6 months, once we have an antibody test, and see what proportion of the population has actually had this.
Reverses. Can he make it pay?
Helpful? Not so helpful right now in terms of determining on a day-to-day basis who's infected. Yeah, we're looking for it.
Thank you.
Caught off guard. German suplex. Proving tough to catch. And right to the back of the neck. Oh, shot right to the stomach. Hip attack. And will this be it? 1, 2, 3. He wins. I can't believe it. He survived this journey through hell. These guys feel no love for each other. Here's another look.
Here is your winner, the Assassin, Mick.
A very impressive victory.
There's nothing more pure than picking up a win in a good old-fashioned one-on-one fight.
And guys, that's exactly the type of action viewers come to expect here at Hell in a Cell.
I think it is important for people to know that they're doing exactly what they would expect their city governments to do, working together to confront this pandemic as best we can while keeping essential and critical services before all our I want to thank all the city workers who are continuing to do their jobs during this very trying time, and all the people who don't work in the city, all the other workers of all kinds who are in many cases essential to the well-being of the city and to the well-being of its residents. And I want to thank the residents themselves for their patience and for their understanding and for their ongoing support. I know it means a lot, not just in the context of our war against this virus, but it also means a lot to our staff and the cooperation and understanding of our residents. That's what we do here in Toronto. We stick together in tough times, take care of each other, and I'd like to hope follow the advice of our process. There's no doubt that sadly there will be tough times ahead for many people in our city. So I wanted to talk about first, as part of the ongoing work of the Mayor's Economic Support and Equipment Task Force, we are sending surveys to businesses across the city so that we can hear directly from them as soon as possible about how the pandemic is impacting them and what information and support would be most helpful to them at this time. We've had some consultations with them already, but we're now trying to spread that out to a much larger number of businesses. We are doing things that we're advocating to the government to achieve. Survey will be available at Toronto.ca/COVID-19. It will help us to try to put plans in place to rebuild our economy after this crisis. We'll be looking to receive the input as quickly as possible, days, not weeks, so we can act on it and so I go look and throw it out this phase until we have that information. I want to make sure the city is doing everything it can, advocating to the other governments to do everything they can to make sure that businesses, which after all employ thousands and thousands of components, can be back in business as possible. That is also why we announced last week that we would have a 60-day grace period for City of Toronto tax, water, and waste utility payments for business and residents. This ensures that for individuals and businesses who can't pay due to a change in their circumstances, that they have some time to get their finances in order. It leaves that money in their accounts, small businesses and the residents, while we all regroup, and that includes government. For those who are fortunate enough that they can still pay, I encourage you, please pay on time if you can. The city obviously will continue to need to finance the services continue to provide to the residents of the city of Toronto. So it will help us a great deal if people who have not had change in circumstances and still pay, do pay based on the prescribed schedule. Second, as we get closer to the end of the month, I want to repeat my message that I've been trying to repeat as often as possible to private landlords to do the right thing for those who need help or need at least some reassurance and some help right now. On Monday, I had a call with many of the major private residential landlords and surveyed how landlords plan to help tenants who may have lost their job or lost their income due to recent turmoil, and at the same time have rent payments that are due soon, perhaps April 1st. Many of those companies pledged to help tenants who needed it. A number of those companies had detailed policies already in place to assist tenants whose income had been diminished by the health crisis. But far too many had not and have not yet communicated anything to reassure anxious tenants who, in the ordinary course, had rent payments due on April 1st. We have enough anxiety in this city among people who are concerned or afraid that for reasons related to health and their financial security and their future, just don't need them to be anxious about other things than these companies that can be dated have the intention to help them, which I'm sure most of these companies will. While the city has no power to direct landlords, I strongly urge all property owners, big and small, to find ways to help their tenants who need help, find ways to help them, of course, stay in their home during these unprecedented times, but also to relieve some of that anxiety people are feeling about a looming station of bricks. I also expect landlords to proactively communicate with tenants with respect to the policies they have in place or will have in place as a result of this invitation to do so. Make sure that information is made available to tenants directly affected by COVID-19. We deferred the payment of utility bills and tax bills for 60 days to help everyone. But I would be extremely disappointed as mayor if that flexibility was not passed on to residential and small business tenants who have seen dramatic and sudden changes in their financial situation. And as a matter of fairness, I will also say to all residents, if you can pay your rent or pay your mortgage if your circumstances have not changed, pay your rent or your mortgage, please do. There are many people right now who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in dire circumstances. They need help. But it doesn't help them, it doesn't help our city or our economy. People who are still employed or otherwise in a position to make these payments of rent or other kinds of decide not to pay. I also want to address the fact that we have learned from Toronto Community Housing that some tenants are receiving calls from scammers trying to use the COVID-19 emergency to prey on our tenants. This may well extend to people outside of Toronto Community Housing, but I'm not familiar with that. These scammers are claiming to help the tenants buy their groceries, and in the course of doing so, ask the tenants for their credit cards and banking information first. This is despicable behavior, and people should know that it is a scam, and the TCHC is on top of it, that they should in no circumstances give their banking or credit information to the people. TCHC will not ask for this kind of information, and people like first responders will not ask for that information either. If you're in any doubt when we are asking such things, please call 211 or somebody like that will make sure that it's not covered. Just before Dr. Villa and Chief Pay provide their operational updates, I want to stress again something that is really important. You have to have a sense of hope about this. This is an agonizing period. It seems like a very long period. It may be longer still. In fact, it likely will be. But we will get through it because in the context of a lifetime, it is a relatively short period of time, as difficult as it may be. I remain absolutely confident in the fact that we're going to get through this. If we follow the advice that we're being given, and if we stand together and support each other, that improves government supporting people. You know, today, it's hard to remember because it seems like so long ago that these things were started. Today was supposed to be a happy day. The life of our city as it is each and every year when the Blue Jays play their home opener. Today was that day. I, for one, can't wait for this to be over, for things like a Blue Jays game or even just a walk over to play on the playground for families in our city are available to people again. Because these are things that are very much appreciated all the time. I know we're all going to appreciate them more, including when this is all over with and we will get back to these things. Well, I know people are scared right now and they're worried for their health and they're worried for their financial future. I can say this to them. I have such faith in the advice we're receiving from our medical officer of health that I know that the fastest way to get over this is to follow her advice, to follow her recommendations, to follow what announcements in cases now to instructing what people are really doing. Stay home as much as possible. Stay home all the time if you possibly can. Practice as much physical distancing, stay about the length of a hockey stick, apart from everybody else, without exception. Don't gather in large groups. Accept the difficult decision that I announced yesterday, which is not an easy decision to announce, to close the amenities in the parks. As I said yesterday, mayors generally like going around opening things, not closing. But this was something that was necessary to do in the interest of fighting this virus, the war that we're all engaged in together. And if you do have symptoms, stay away from other people, stop the spread. Now, I just want to mention before I conclude that there was a group of people I met that were very important to us this morning by telephone, about 18 companies from the kind of supply chain and delivery business. They raised 3 points with me on which I would like to have your help, because I think you can do a lot to help these people serve you. The first thing they said, and they smiled until I say, well, it's kind of a lot of depressing, they said a lot of people who are making many more deliveries now because you're at home and you're ordering things from them. They said that they have difficulty accessing washrooms. And this is a particular request addressed to the small business, those fast food places that they were service stations. In many cases, they would refuse access to those washrooms, and understand why, because they're cheap, people sometimes think well, but if you see a way to help them, the city is going to help in that regard as well. Secondly, they pointed out that when letter carriers and other people like that come to the door, a lot of people, I think, maybe because they're happy to see somebody, because they want to be friendly, to thank these people for delivering something to them, they immediately open the door, and their stands for delivery person closer than they should be, closer than that and the hockey stick to you. They're saying, great, that is the door, smile, say thank you, and please don't open the door, because they've also said
I know what you're talking about, the brown bottle. How long they didn't finish it all? I don't know.
Finally, thirdly, they indicated to me that in many cases in the park people are doing what they're not supposed to be doing, quite frankly, but it comes naturally to us as human beings, and that is they're having gatherings in the hallway. So the delivery people end up on the 11th floor, and lo and behold, there are 10 people from the 11th floor having a bit of a chin wag, and they're saying that they then are afraid to come near that group of people. Of course, that group isn't supposed to be there under these rules. And they have said to me that they may have to cease delivering things if people don't stop doing it. So that's not consistent with Dr. Pavilla's advice, and it's not consistent with good practice for this pandemic, and it's also going to stop delivery things we don't need to do. So while this has been a gigantic team effort, and they do the first to say so, I want to express my particular gratitude thus far to something as quickly as you can say an Aaron Farmer's business went to both the Chief Tag and Dr. Pavilla, who have been the leaders of that team together with our city manager, Chris Gray. I am really proud of the outstanding performance of all the men who serve the public in many different capacities, first responders and many others. But I'm also proud of the people who are doing better. I don't want to say we're there yet because we're not. Please make it effort to take those followers out. One of these constant things we simply do every day as a consequence. So on that note, I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And good afternoon, everybody. As of 1 o'clock this afternoon, there are 339 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Toronto, and this is an increase of 31 relative to yesterday. There are 22 cases in hospital, 10 in ICU, and unfortunately, there have been 4 deaths in our city thus far. Approximately 25% of the cases in the city are attributed to community spread, and 13 people have recovered. As I told you before, the numbers are constantly changing, and I will endeavor to keep you informed as these changes occur. Currently, there are 10 long-term care homes, 1 retirement home, 17 chronic care and or rehabilitation hospitals, and 3 reactivation care centers in Toronto with at least 1 staff or 1 resident with COVID-19. I have been asked by many what constitutes an outbreak in a long-term care home. In this setting, a COVID-19 outbreak is declared when there are 2 formal cases of infection in the facility. And currently, there are 3 such outbreaks in Toronto. Toronto facilities. The spread of COVID-19 in the long-term care setting is especially concerning because we know the residents of these settings, residents of long-term care homes, are especially vulnerable. For starters, they tend to be older individuals, and many of the residents of long-term care homes have compromised immune systems or chronic health conditions. But part of our core work in public health is working with long-term care homes throughout our city to ensure that proper measures are in place to prevent the spread of disease. And what this looks like, what this includes, are such things as enhanced cleaning. We work with long-term care homes to ensure that they have these measures in place. Enhanced surveillance and monitoring for illness amongst staff and residents. We ensure that protocols and procedures are in place so that individuals who are ill with COVID-19, confirmed cases, are actually quickly isolated within the long-term care. We've also worked with long-term care homes to ensure that there are no visitors that are allowed, and we also work with them to ensure that staff are screened for illness when they come into the facility after the beginning of the day or their shift. We also ensure and work with our long-term care partners to ensure that those who are caring for residents use personal protective equipment appropriately. And that's both for their own protection and for the protection of the residents. We continue, unfortunately, to see COVID-19 cases in our community that have affected our most vulnerable residents. And this is why we have worked hard to increase physical distancing action. I know that other jurisdictions have needed to use stronger social distancing or physical distancing measures to prevent further virus spread. Some examples that I know of would include in Nova Scotia, where police have the power to fine people up to $1,000 for not practicing social distancing. In Montreal, they've banned group gatherings of 2 or more people, and police there are issuing $1,000 fines for non-compliance. I know that in the city of Vancouver, businesses are fined up to $50,000 if customers are not kept at least 2 meters apart. And individuals in Vancouver can be fined up to $1,000. And finally, I know you've probably heard, like I have, that there have been a number of European cities that have enacted restrictions on leaving the home except for a weekly outing to buy groceries and other essential supplies. These kinds of decisions are difficult to make, and decisions to implement these kinds of measures are certainly based on evidence, as well as many other factors and considerations. Things like increasing COVID-19 cases and deaths, the extent to which the public is following recommendations and requirements for social distancing or physical distancing. And certainly, one of the major objectives is to ensure that our healthcare resources are protected and available for when we need them. In Canada, community means a lot to us. And we are very, very fortunate to enjoy many civil liberties and freedoms. We look out for and we take care of people in our community. And often, we put the needs of others in front of our own. In my mind, this is the core. This is what it means to be a Torontonian. This is what it means to be a Canadian. And it is precisely for this reason why we have to implement social or physical distancing measures to protect our community at this critical point in time. If people do not follow these protective measures, then stronger ones affecting our civil liberties will be put in place to protect our city. Everyone in our city has a critical role in the direction that we go from here. I want to thank everybody who is protecting our city by staying home and practicing physical distancing. This truly is the most effective way to prevent the virus from spreading. Your families, your loved ones, your friends, and your neighbors are depending on you to do the right thing. I ask you now to please continue the very responsible action of staying home. And please, stay home, stay safe, and take care of each other. With that, I'll now turn the microphone over to Chief.
Thank you, Dr. Villa, and good afternoon. Late yesterday afternoon, Public Health Ontario provided information and recommendations with respect to the use of personal protective equipment by first responders in response to COVID-19. I am confident that Public Health Ontario is committed to ensuring that our first responders continue to have the personal protective equipment required in order for them to continue to deliver safe and effective emergency pre-hospital care. As recommended, our first responders in Toronto will continue to complete patient care risk assessments for each and every emergency medical incident they respond to, as we always have in the past. We fully support each of our first responders in completing their patient care risk assessments and in selecting and using the levels of personal protective equipment deemed necessary based on the situation at hand. Further, we both understand and respect that the assessment of risk by pre-hospital emergency care providers must also continue to consider other potential communicable diseases, including, but not necessarily limited to COVID-19. I want to assure both our city staff and the public that we remain fully committed to delivering effective emergency services and ensuring that our first responders have the tools and equipment that they need to deliver safe and effective emergency service. At present, our personal protective equipment inventory for emergency services remains stable, and our first responders continue to be provided with the PPE required to perform their essential work. We fully understand that there are global PPE supply chain challenges as a result of COVID-19. To that end, the City of Toronto is working in direct collaboration with our colleagues at the Province of Ontario and with the Government of Canada to ensure that we continue to receive the personal protective equipment required to sustain our delivery of essential and critical services over the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic. The City, overall, continues to deliver the range of essential and critical services the public requires, including solid waste collection, safe drinking water and wastewater treatment, maintaining infrastructure, and delivering critical services to our most vulnerable. I want to especially thank the employees of Toronto Employment and Social Services for their hard work and dedication in supporting and serving their clients who rely on them each day. Finally, yesterday, the City announced the closure of parks amenities to further strengthen the message and the action required.
Yo. Conrad.
We need everyone's cooperation if we are to beat COVID-19 and keep our city healthy. In
Conrad.
This, the other provincial orders around the closure of non-essential businesses is prioritized.
Conrad.
What?
You're falling asleep, buddy.
Occurring with respect to the